Hi, everyone, and welcome to our Customer Discovery Workshop Introduction Video number 1. My name is Mia Washington. I'm the Assistant Program Manager here at Launch New York. I more than likely got you onboarded and connected with your EIR, and I also help facilitate our group sessions here for the Customer Discovery Workshop. Here is an overview of what you can expect to learn throughout the upcoming weeks. Mindset. The key to your success is prioritizing customer discovery before proceeding with your idea. Developing a hypothesis and questions, finding people to interview, documenting your interviews in a spreadsheet, and how and when you'll summarize your learnings during short check-in meetings after every 15 interviews that you have. And now I'll turn it over to our program manager, Krista Wallace.
Thank you, Mia. As she just mentioned, my name is Crystal Wallace. I am the Launch New York Founders Go Big Program Manager, which means that I manage Launch New York's intentional diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts while upholding our 4 pillars to you, which means to identify, educate, inspire, and engage underrepresented entrepreneurs through tailored outreach, programming, investment readiness support, which includes equity and funding. I am your ally and liaison to all things L&Y. And in addition to the support that you receive from your entrepreneurial residents, as well as a bridge to other resources and support in the larger entrepreneurial ecosystem. So to pick up where Mia left off with the 10 steps of success, she mentioned that there are going to be 15 intervals of 15 where you're going to begin to compile the data you receive from the interviews that you conduct. When you do that, at 75 interviews and 150 interviews, you're going to meet with our customer discovery team. They will help you with inputting that data into a data visualization tool called Power BI. And what that's going to do is help you to draw inference from all of the information that you gather. By doing so, you should be able to come up with about 5 to 10 major themes or conclusions that will help inform the next steps in your customer discovery and also in your investment preparedness in your pitch deck. And the goal is for you to be able to defend those conclusions with the data that you've collected. Once you get to that point, you've reached step 10, which is graduation. And we want to see you graduate so that you can keep you moving forward in this mentorship to financing pipeline that we have. As I was kind of alluding to, the workshop will further enforce the work you're doing with your Launch New York EIR. And you'll find that customer discovery informs the whole right side of the business model canvas or the lean model canvas that you've been working on with your entrepreneur in residence. So the more time you commit and the more thorough your results are, the greater the likelihood or chance that you might actually get funded. So we really want to help support you through this entire process. And without further ado, I will turn it over to our workshop facilitators, Don Delaria and Crystal Callahan.
Crystal, thanks so much. I appreciate it. And I'm Don Delaria, and in a moment, I'll introduce Crystal Callahan. But welcome to Customer Discovery / Research. We've divided this into a 3-part program. Today, this is a part 1, and it's all about the mindset of customer discovery and getting you into the right mindset. So let's get into it. Again, my name is Don Delaria. I have been a mentor with Launch New York for the better part of 5 or 6 years now. I've also worked with companies in other incubator programs, probably 200 in total. I've been teaching customer discovery with Launch New York for the better part of 3 or 4 years. Literally had dozens of companies come through the program, and you get to benefit from a lot of learning we've had along the way and a lot of modifications. My background earlier in my career, I started in investment banking. I ran investor relations for the largest theater circuit in the country, a company called Regal Entertainment Group out of Knoxville, Tennessee, for about 11 years. I also ran the investor relations program for ZEP, which is a specialty chemical company out of Atlanta with about a $700 million market cap. And along the way was a Kentucky Fried Chicken franchisee. I worked in kind of a stock ownership startup. I co-founded a startup in the data visualization and space. So I've had a very wide variety of experiences over my years, both as a startup co-founder, founder, and working in large and medium-sized public entities. So really a variety of company sizes and a variety of industries. Most recently, I co-founded a freight brokerage of all things that is approaching $60 million in revenue now. So again, a lot of different industries and backgrounds. And so let me throw it over to Crystal Callahan for a little bit of her background.
Hi, guys. You heard my voice on the welcome call, but I think it's always nice to see a face, right? Connect a face with a name. And also, this is a wonderful opportunity to help you separate me and Crystal Wallace, right? You remember I said Crystal Callahan and Crystal Wallace are two completely different people. So it was wonderful to have Crystal Wallace open up the session so you could see who she is, how amazing she is. And now I'm Crystal Callahan, and I'll be working closely with Don to help facilitate the workshop. In terms of my background, I've gotten a chance to work for lots of companies. I think we need to update that slide. I think I'm at maybe 45 plus. Worked with a number of different companies throughout the US, small, medium, large. Some had international offices. That inspired me to then start my own companies, and also got me into the arena where I started helping other entrepreneurs with their businesses. So I tell people I'm an entrepreneur that absolutely loves helping other entrepreneurs. I started out as an entrepreneur here at Launch New York, as I shared with you guys, and now I've moved into the role of an entrepreneur in residence so that we can help provide this advisory and mentorship support to you all. And then in terms of, so I guess I've been in Launch New York for 4 years now, which has been a wonderful experience. In terms of customer discovery, you guys maybe have heard me say it before. You're going to hear me say it throughout this workshop. This is the most important thing that you could possibly consider doing for your business. Every entrepreneur everywhere throughout the country, throughout the world, should be doing good customer discovery. It should be something that they start and never stop. So you're going to get an opportunity to see why Launch New York thinks this is such an important workshop for you. And we're just happy to have you here, and that Don and I get to shepherd you through this journey.
Thanks, Crystal. So again, welcome. And I mean this sincerely. We are very excited to have you here. Not all entrepreneurs choose to go through this process, but if you start here, I promise you'll have a very good experience in your entrepreneurial journey. And hopefully that'll take you on to great things, either with this idea that you have now or with your next idea, the one after that. So again, we're very excited you're here. We're also excited about what you're going to learn. I personally love to hear the report outs from the founders each time we get or have an opportunity to meet with them, because I get to learn about something new, some new business or some new problem or unmet need. And so it's very exciting for me to hear about that. And you'll find we ask a lot of questions along the way because we're not only intellectually curious ourselves, but we want our curiosity to become your curiosity, and be very curious of the customers that you hope to sell to at some point in the future. We want to develop that same that same mindset of curiosity as you go to interview customers. So know that we're here to support you. We've done a lot in terms of the program, but if you need to talk, we have mechanisms for you to do that, to talk with me or Crystal. We'll cover that a little bit later in the session, but we're here to support you and excited that you're here. So let's jump right into the agenda for today. As I said, we've divided this up into 3 sections. This is part 1. It's focusing on the mindset. And first, we're going to talk about expectations. Then we're going to talk about the structure of good customer discovery. We're going to talk about the goals of good customer discovery. And then you'll see a couple of testimonials, which we're excited about. And then as we kind of conclude today's sessions, we're going to be talking about preparing for interviews, and most importantly, how to write your hypothesis, which is, if you can remember from 6th and probably 7th grade science class, right? You make a statement that you think might be true, and then you go try and prove whether it's true or not. So we're going to do that. So expectations of Launch New York EIR. So these are expectations you guys should have of us, okay? you should be, we should be thrilled. We are that we're here. We're here to help you follow a customer discovery process. The reason we put that in at number 2 is because I want to draw a distinction between what it is and what is not. We're here to help you with customer discovery. Most of you will have already been or will be shortly assigned to an entrepreneur in residence as part of the Launch New York program, which may or may not be Crystal or I, but in those sessions, you'll be working on building out a business model canvas and taking other steps to validate other parts of your business. Crystal Callahan and I will be focused on helping you follow a customer discovery process. So for the most part, we're gonna stick to that part of the equation, right? Helping you interview, understand what the results were, and how to gain insight from those interviews so that you can then take that and apply that in your conversations with your Launch New York EIR separately. Our feedback is intended to be constructive, but sometimes time limitations may impact our tone. So if we seem short or a little bit direct or to the point, know that that's not a personal attack on you. That is just that we're time limited sometimes, and we want to get our point across, and you need to hear it. At the same time, that builds up a little bit of a thick skin for you. Because investors you meet down the road, if you get that far, they're going to ask very direct questions, and some of them are going to be nice and some aren't. And so it helps you get prepared for those investors. Number 4 is just kind of an extension of what we're going to do and not do. Those other questions about guidance on your business, you can save those for your other EIRs. And again, I want to make sure that we create a safe space here for you to share your ideas, both for your business and in other areas of your life. And if you ever feel like somebody has crossed a line, we encourage you to reach out to Crystal or I or somebody on the Launch New York team to make sure that we resolve that quickly, because that is definitely not our intention. We want you to feel comfortable and safe here in exploring an idea and helping you, get to a conclusion enthusiastically and quickly so that you can move on with your idea. Crystal, did you want to add anything before we go to the next slide?
Just a reminder, if I was just watching this video for the first time, I would just be thinking, you guys have so many hats that you're wearing. We know that. We know how busy you are. We can imagine how busy you are and how many different hats you're playing and how many different roles you're playing in your business. And so what we're asking you to do in the parameters of this specific workshop is just to focus on the customer discovery aspect of it, right? And like Don said, everything else that you're going to do with your business, that's going to be great for you to work one-on-one with your assigned EIR. Okay, so if you notice that we're not letting you get off on sort of random tangents about your strategy and all these other aspects of your business, is because you'll get the most out of this workshop if you focus. When you're with us, when you're in this workshop, you want to focus specifically on customer discovery, all the customer discovery techniques that we're going to teach you. We're going to be hyper focused in this workshop so that you get the most out of it.
Yeah, you'll find that we actually need very little information to be able to assist you effectively. So that means we don't need to get into all the other aspects of the business. That just wastes time for everybody, right? So we'll help you stay on track. And so let's talk about the flip side of that, expectations we are going to have of you. So one of the things that we run into sometimes is that, and we'll learn about this a little bit more, we ask you to go off and do some interviews, and we ask you to come back and report on what you learned. And then we comment, and then we ask you to go back out and do some more interviews. And that iterative process continues for a number of weeks. And so we ask that each week you come prepared to give us some summary thoughts about what you learned that week. You went out, you asked some questions, and you got some answers. I would encourage you to spend a little bit of time looking at those answers. So if somebody asked you, well, what did you learn? You at least had a couple of things, right? I learned a couple of things from the people I talked to this week. Sometimes when founders come to us, in fairness, they're looking at their data for the first time. That is not a productive use of your time nor our time. So our expectation is that you will have looked at your notes and have some thoughts on what you may have learned. Either it confirmed, an assumption that you had, or it did not confirm an assumption that you had and actually goes against what you thought was true. Either of those is fine. Again, it's about learning what the customer says. And so we want you to take that time before you jump on the call with us. And I think we've devised the program in such a way that you can schedule time when you're ready. So that means that you should have been able to do that part before you schedule that time with us. We do really ask that you try and meet the weekly interview goals. We find that this program is much more effective if we can stay on a cadence of meeting once a week. Again, I talked about this being an iterative process, and there'll be more on that later, but we find that when founders get out of that iterative process, they tend to drop out or off, and we'd hate to have that happen for you. So we ask that you really try and keep to a weekly cadence. We understand that life events get in the way, so and it's not a hard and fast rule. If a couple of weeks go by because somebody got sick or you had to do something or you had a meeting, that's fine. There are also instances, depending on what kind of customers we're trying to interview, that may make things difficult to get a certain number of interviews one week, but then you get a lot the following week. We're okay with that. So we have some flexibility there, but I would just really, really encourage you to try and get on a cadence of, every week, or, don't let it bleed to 2 or 3, because we'll be in trouble at that point. You guys get to schedule the 15-minute check-in sessions, the check-in sessions at a time that's convenient to you. So that's good from your perspective. And Crystal and I carve out time on our calendars so that we can just sync up super fast on that. And then, to the extent that we have group sessions, we really ask you to attend those, because while it's important for you to learn these skills, what we find is that there's a lot of cross-pollination that happens when founders get together and hear each other's stories, especially true when it comes to how to find people to interview. That is a sticking point for a lot of folks as they go on this journey. And when they hear how other people have done it, all of a sudden they get other ideas. And that's an area where I've learned a ton, and we'll talk about some stories there as we go forward. Crystal, did you want add anything here on the expectations of founders?
We're going to talk about it, guys, as we go through the workshop and as we go through the videos. But some of the things that are coming up for me right now, just to get you prepared and thinking about, in terms of showing up prepared, the entrepreneurs that we've seen do the best at this workshop review these slides that Don has put together over and over again on their own, right? If, like Don's saying, if the first time you're looking at your spreadsheet, or the first time you're looking at these slides, this guide, this is basically an instruction manual. We literally call it the Bible, right? If the first time you're looking at this stuff is when you show up with us, it's just not going to make the best use of your time with us. You have to be regularly reviewing this material, regularly engaged to do a good job. And yeah, the reason why we schedule so many meetings with you to check in with you and check your progress. Imagine when we've had entrepreneurs who go out and do like 85 interviews, and they've been doing them wrong. And then they show up to a meeting with us with 85 interviews where they missed a few questions, or they were putting words into the mouth of the people they were interviewing. I mean, there's just all kinds of things that can go off track when you're early at this. So that's some of the reasons why we've put these expectations and these guidelines. We've been doing this workshop for years, and we know kind of what are the things you need to follow in order to do well at this. And that's what we're starting to share with you here today.
Great. Now, imagine at this point, you're probably excited to get going on, kind of the nitty-gritty of the course, but trust us, we've kind of developed a pacing that seems to work well for the majority of folks. So we're gonna start a little bit more slowly, but I think you'll find value in that, because we really have condensed each slide down to kind of the key points. And so we don't want to underestimate the importance kind of each piece of information we're sharing with you at each time. It would be very easy to kind of breeze through 20 slides and cover tons of important stuff and not have you retain as much as possible. So we are going to go a little bit more slowly in this process. What I did want to do is just kind of introduce the whole customer discovery structure to you. So again, today we're talking about mindset and introduction to the process of customer discovery. This is the video that you'll be watching. And then there's an intro session 2, right? Where we're going to talk more about the interview process. And then in the third video, we're going to talk about reporting what you learned, right? These are your conclusions. We do have individual sessions, each, in between each of these, and then a final report out in graduation is how you will end your journey with us at Launch New York in customer discovery. So let's talk about goals of good customer discovery, okay? What we are here to do, and I know this might seem difficult to hear, is we're actually here to save you time, and we're here to save you money. Those are the two things that customer discovery do better than almost anything else. Probably 60 to 70% of the founders that come into a customer discovery program already have a product that they're trying to sell people. Some may be stuck. Some might have 20 years of experience in a field and they know everything there is to know about it. And they know everybody wants to buy it. And yet they're still at customer discovery, right? Because they want to refine how they pitch that product to their customers. What we're going to do is ask you to kind of put that product or that service or whatever you hope to be selling kind of on the shelf. Forget it exists. It's not there. And we're going to go out and we're going to do some research. The benefit of that is that if we can find that the problem that you think, right, this is number 3 here on the list, we're going to validate the problem that you think is important is actually being experienced by others. We run into tons of founders that they have a problem, they develop a solution for it, and because they had a problem and developed a solution, they think everyone will have the same problem, and benefit from the same solution. When in fact, that's not always the truth. So what we want to do is figure out, why, and if there's an opportunity, great. If there's not, why isn't there? Or sometimes there's a solution in the middle, which is there's an opportunity, but it's for a smaller subset of the customer group. And then we try to determine, is it still big enough? Okay. We also going to validate that this solution is something for which people will pay. It's not uncommon for us to run into founders with ideas that have solutions that people go, wow, that's super interesting. I really like what you're doing. That would be super helpful. And they get very, very excited, which understandably so, I'd be very excited. And then we get into the, well, how much would you pay for this? And then, I don't know how much, right? So, if we can validate that the problem is big enough that they will pay for it, now we're on to something, right? And the best indicator that somebody is willing to pay to solve something is that they're paying for another solution already. Like they're trying to solve that problem another way and it's not working. And I phrase it that way, just very specifically that way, because in a later slide, we're going to talk about why that is. And then, right, so we're going to test we're going to test this to see if it's something they're willing to pay for. Our goal here ultimately is not to sell people on our idea. Here's my shiny thing. What do you think? We're not going to do that. We're going to ask them about their challenges in their everyday life, maybe specific to a particular part of their life, yes, but the challenges that they're experiencing, and then we're going to ask them why. What are you doing about it? And we're going to learn. We're not going to sell. So Crystal, I know you might have some additional thoughts on this.
Yeah, it goes back to the title here. When people hear customer discovery workshop, they think that this is sort of like a sales and marketing class, right? Where you're going to bring in your existing product or service offering, and we're going to teach you how to market and sell it to current customers. This couldn't be more unlike that. Okay. So that's why Don and I have worked on calling this, I think we're doing customer research discovery now, so that you see it more as market research, which means you have to literally sit down and visualize yourself as someone who does not have a product or service to sell right now. I'm gonna say that again because it takes a while to let that sink in. What we're asking you to do for the purposes of this workshop, again, we know you have another world that you live in outside of us, but for the purposes of this workshop, we are asking you to pretend, right? It's a thought exercise, it's an experiment, to pretend that you do not have a product or service to sell right now. So you have to go all the way back to the moment where you first had this idea, whatever, if that was a day ago, a year ago, a month ago, and pretend you're meeting me and Don then, and we're guiding you along customer discovery so that you can do objective research when you're interviewing these people, so that you're not trying to hard sell them a product right now. You will learn absolutely nothing if you try to hard sell these people right now. And that's going to take time for you to get used to.
Yeah, I mean, as I was thinking about this, you might be thinking, well, gosh, this would just be easier if I asked, client A to do client B's customer discovery and vice versa, which, would take it would make for a very impartial set of interviews. The thing is, you guys need to hear this firsthand. So we need to teach you a skill, which is, good interview techniques, good listening techniques, good techniques on developing insight from all of that will really help you refine your own idea. And that's why, among other things, you can't outsource this. This is something that you just have to learn. But the good news is it's a skill you can use both for this very specific idea that you have now. But once you know this, you can use it, in perpetuity going forward. And as you iterate your own product, sometimes people iterate a product, they pivot a little bit. You just keep doing this. You keep asking the customer what they want, and you follow the market. You make stuff that they want, not that you think they need, right? Which is why we're all here. Okay, so testimonials. People love us. I won't read all of these to you, but I'll let you go through this at your own pace. One of the nights, I like the one here in the top right. A naysayer challenged me. It was good. I learned from him. That's what we do. We're here to challenge you and get you to think critically about what you're hearing. And you'll hear me say this again, what you're not hearing. I have thought through my entire life that you can learn far, far more from a person or from an organization by what they don't say than what they do say. Okay. What I mean by that is you expect someone to say something and they don't. That is often way more telling than what they do tell you. What they do tell you is usually a lie. What they're not saying is usually the truth. And so we're going to teach you to be very tuned in to what they say and what they don't say, because it'll give you a lot of good insight. Okay. So preparing for interviews. One of the books that we just love is written by Giff Constable, called Talking to Humans. And this is pretty much a prerequisite. You will note that a lot of the way we teach the course and iterate and a lot of the commentary that we provide could have been lifted straight out of this book. We kind of developed it on our own, but when we looked at this book, we're like, wow, this mirrors our approach so well that we wanted to make sure that you had an opportunity to take a look at it. So this is a requirement of all of our customer discovery participants, is that they read this, right? This is really going to help you learn what it's like to interview subjects with very, very specific, well, this is what I wanted to learn. These are the questions I asked. This is how people answered the questions. And Giff takes you through, I don't know, at least a dozen different interviews and kind of shows you the pros and cons of doing it different ways. So very good book. So let's talk about the hypothesis. And before I jump into that, Crystal, do you have anything else you wanted to throw in?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, great, thanks. Okay, so the hypothesis, this is kind of the starting point. We're at the starting line now. A hypothesis is just like that. It's what you learned in 6th and 7th grade science class. We're going to make some kind of statement that we think might be true, and then we're going to test it, right? And now we're going to be very, very specific about how we want you to write a hypothesis for the purposes of this customer research or customer discovery class that we're in. Okay, and here is that format. So when we get together for our next session in person, I and Crystal will be expecting you to recite your hypothesis in exactly this way, with exactly these words, except for the stuff in bold here at the top. And it starts with, I believe that some customer segment, okay, ... will pay for my product or service because of some benefit, okay? And we're going to fill in the customer segment, we're going to fill in the product service, we're going to fill in the benefit. So here is an example. I believe that people who drive convertibles will pay for my sun visor, okay, that's the product. Why? To improve visibility on sunny days, okay? It's very clear. If you came to me out of the blue, I knew nothing about your business, didn't know who you were, didn't know anything, but I was charged with helping you do better customer discovery. If you said this to me, I would know exactly what your product is, who the customer is, and what you hope the benefit will be. And I can give you very, very good feedback. So that's why we ask that it be done in a very specific way, right? The customer segment is specific. It's people who drive convertibles. The product or service is defined in just a few clear words. It's a sun visor, right? And the benefit is very clearly defined to improve visibility on sunny days. If anything, we find that people that get hung up on the either defining the product part or defining the benefits. And it becomes this long laundry list of benefits, right? Because it does this and this and this and this and this and this and this. I would really encourage you in your first draft of this, and there'll be several drafts, to try and keep shrinking it. You know, if you describe it in 100 words, try and describe it in 50, then try and describe it in 25, then try and describe it in 12, right? And then maybe 6, right? Keep cutting it in half. And what that'll force you to do is use the words that are important, and it'll really cut to the quick, right? You'll get to the actual benefit. There might be lots of things that a sun visor can do, but I'm focused on visibility, okay, in this example. So Crystal, let me turn it over to you. I know you probably have some commentary here.
Yeah, guys, again, like, what we're teaching you is a very specific technique. And when you're first learning it, you really don't understand why it's important to be so precise. But if you really follow the instructions, right, and that's why we're doing it in video format now, you can rewind this video, watch it again, over and over again. You can review the slides over and over again until you get the hang of it. We know we're dropping new information, new concepts on you, right? New tools on you, but you will see the benefit of this. I just tell people over and over again, customer discovery is the most important thing that any entrepreneur can do in any phase of their company or their growth. And Don and I and countless people have met entrepreneurs who didn't take the time to do what we're showing you how to do. And you would be floored if you knew how much time and how much money people have spent trying to force a product or a project out into a market where there just really wasn't a fit, okay? They didn't have the time to do this. They didn't have the patience. They didn't have anyone to introduce this process to them. They just went all out there trying to sell something and then just really hit a brick wall. Don knows I like to share the story of an entrepreneur that I worked with years ago, Bradley. He spent so much money out of his own pocket to get an app. I think it was a software tool developed. He hired a team and everything. And in my first meeting with Bradley, I said, Bradley, I understand that you're excited about this. I understand that you have an app and a tool. I says, but where's your customer discovery? And he said, where's my what? He had no idea what I was talking about. He had spent $150,000 out of his own pocket, of his own money, to go and develop something that he thought that people would love. And he hadn't talked to one living human soul to find out what their problems, their needs, their buying habits, or their interests were. So just some reminders of why this is so important. It will make you a better leader, a better entrepreneur, a better founder, a better CEO. It will help you in the development of your product when you get to that point. It will help you in investor meetings at Launch New York when they want to know that you've done some really thorough customer discovery, and it will help you in investor meetings outside of Launch New York when you meet with people and they say they love you, but they're hearing 100 pitches a day. They want to know what makes you different, that you took the time and energy to focus on what Don is sharing with you here and to conduct really good, objective customer discovery. It all starts with how you develop this hypothesis.
Yeah, I'll piggyback that by saying it's first of all, it's okay if you've already gone a little ways down this path. We'd rather have you here late than not have you here at all. And going back to the saving time and money, just imagine if you spend a handful of weeks going through this, and rather than thinking what you think the customer wants, you just go ask the customer what they want, and they tell you. Like, what a revelation that would be. They're just going to tell you what they want. They're going to tell you what they'll pay for. And then you get to go decide if you want to go make that thing, right? If you can get to that point where someone has told you what they want and what they'll pay for it, and you can go figure out a way to make it and make a profit, you're pretty much guaranteed to be successful. The alternative is, spray and pray, right? It's just throw a whole bunch of stuff out there and hope that someone buys it. It makes your marketing much more ineffective. It wastes a lot of time. It wastes a ton of capital, dilutes your business and your ownership in your business, right? Ultimately, it leads to bridge financings. It leads to a lot of delays when you could have solved all of that by just having a solid hypothesis, go test it, go get some information. So it's very much okay to be here at whatever, come into this class at whatever part in the journey you're on. We'd love to have you. We're excited you're here. The other thing I wanted to make a point that I want to make specific to hypotheses is that, first of all, you can have more than one. There are sometimes multiple sides to a market, meaning there's multiple customers or influencers in a purchase decision, and we'll talk about that a little later. But it would be very appropriate for you to have more than one hypothesis. Maybe I'm going to sell this sun visor to car dealers in addition to individual car owners. So I might have another hypothesis that relates to a car dealer who might then resell it, right? So I might have to come up with a little bit of a different hypothesis, and I'm just thinking on the fly. Maybe I believe that people who own car dealerships would pay for my sun visor as an incentive to help people buy more cars, right? So there could very easily be multiple hypotheses. It's also important to know these are dynamic. That is to say, they are living, breathing documents. We can change them whenever we want. And it's very common actually for us to start with one hypothesis, get about 30 or 40 interviews in and go, you know what, I've already learned that isn't going to work. So let's change it to something else that I think might have some promise. So we just change it, and then we keep on going. And we test that new version of the hypothesis. And you'll start to hear it, and we'll help you start to hear whether people are saying, that they might want the thing that you have, or if they're not. You will not get 150 interviews into this process and then suddenly learn that people don't want it. That'll start to become clear probably 30 to 45 interviews in, and then we'll keep tweaking and iterating from there. So it'll be a very good experience. So what's your homework for next time we get together? It's going to be to come up with a first draft of your hypothesis. Again, they're not written in stone, doesn't have to be perfect, but let's take a stab at something that reads like, I believe that my customer, whoever I'm going to sell this to, will pay for my thing because of some benefit. And go ahead and take your best stab at that. And then we'll we'll get together. Crystal, is there anything you wanted to add at this point before I go into our summary?
No, I think that this is a good point to stop, Don. We've given you guys a lot to think about, right? A new approach, a new way of doing things, a way of beginning to conduct research is totally separate and aside from whatever day-to-day CEO work you might be doing at this, with whatever else is going on with your company. We're giving you an opportunity to really create like a new department or a new division of your startup that just does this, right? That you set aside, I don't know, a few minutes, an hour or so a week to just have your researcher hat on. This should be fun and exciting for you to kind of break away from the day-to-day operations and explore your market in this way that we are introducing to you. So I just encourage you to rewatch this video as often as you need to, review the slides as often as you need to. And for this particular part, the homework is just develop your hypothesis for the first time. Take some cracks at it, okay? It's gonna be a draft when you arrive at the meeting with us. As Don said, we'll help you further revise it, tweak it, but we wanna see what's on your mind. How would you put this together? And when you show up, all you should be saying is, I believe that will pay for because, right? Follow the format, follow the template, and you will get so much further along with this. And Don, under the new format, Crystal Wallace actually does the summary.
Yeah, that'd be great. So Crystal, why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Don. Thank you, Crystal. Excited to see and hear just the way that we've been able to tailor this program and this workshop to our clients. And just to summarize what we have discussed today, we went over the expectations that both the Launch New York facilitators have for the founders and what the founders should have an expectation for the Launch New York facilitators, the structure and the goals of the customer discovery program, how to ensure that you have good customer discovery happening. Definitely love the testimonials and having witnessed and worked with many of the founders who have gone through this program before, seeing them actually get to the place where they are being funded by Launch New York and other investors, it's very satisfying. So knowing that the work that's put in at this level is getting them to that next phase and next step is why we're here and why we're doing what we're doing. So please make sure that you prepare for your interviews by creating and taking a stab at that hypothesis. It's not as difficult as it seems, and you're definitely going to get the support you need from Crystal and Don in order for you to see that happen. And I'll turn it over to Mia, and I think she's going to give us some inspiration there.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. I want to end our first video with a quote from one of the founders who has completed the workshop. They said that the customer discovery process has fundamentally changed me for the better. As a business owner, I initially thought that I'm a busy entrepreneur. I don't have time to interview dozens of people, but in that I need to get my product on the market. But within no time, I saw the value of pausing and investing some considerable time to researching out to my contacts and networking to meet new clients, to really listen and see what was on their minds. So that concludes Customer Discovery Workshop Introduction Video number 1. Your next step will be to book a 30-minute follow-up session with Don Delaria and Crystal Callahan using the Calendly link provided in Crystal Callahan's invitation email.
Great work, guys. See you next time.
Yep, we'll see you on the other side.